Welcome to the Cruising is Life podcast. Whether you're a seasoned cruiser or just starting out, we have something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and get ready to set sail with us on the Cruising is Life podcast.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Cruising is Life podcast. Welcome back everyone to our another weekly episode. It was a last minute change to what we were originally going to do. We were thinking of doing just like a cruise stories type of podcast here, but we had a really big announcement yesterday. Before we get too far into it, welcome back Justin and Tyler. Tyler, it's been a while.
What's up? Yeah, it's been way too long, guys. Been crazy busy, but finally got a week of vacation, so I had to hop on the #1 podcast with the boys.
Very nice to have you back. How's it going, Justin?
Very, very good. A big storm coming in.
I saw the Snapchats for it. It looked
boy.
pretty cool.
Yes.
But yesterday we had a very, I don't want to say it was a surprise because we kind of knew something was brewing with Carnival. They had something cooking in their pot. With the two recent XL class ships that they had ordered. And then, there was that rumor months ago at this point, that they had been looking into 200,000 ton ships. And then we just never heard anything of it. But, everything was that's still coming around. It's still there. So we finally got the confirmation today. I guess the order was finally placed to order those new ships, a brand new class of ships, and even larger than the original rumor. I think the original rumor was showing about 208, which is about on par with the world class with MSC. But these are right smack dab in the middle as far as size for the Oasis class.
Yeah. They are big ships, and I was amazed. This is where I heard it. I was at the pilot office waiting for my ship for the week, and I heard it. I was like, holy cow, it was crazy when you guys shared that announcement. The absolute mega ships. Interested to see what they will entail, and we're going to dive into it, what our rumors or what we think they're going to be, but very interested to see what there will be in terms of amenities on board, right? Is it going to be an Oasis class copy? What I mean by that, it's going to have the split structure. Who knows? I have to wait and see what Carnival plays out of the magic hat of what the ship will feature. I'm excited.
For sure. It'll definitely be interesting, and it's out of Fincantieri too. So I'm kind of expecting, that seaside class type of structure almost. If all those classes that have come out from Fincantieri over the last couple of weeks is, my cat will not. She's trying to walk across the desk, but there's no room for her to go. And now she's just squirming everywhere. All right. But yeah. So several years ago we had the MSC Seaside. It was a very unique design, and honestly, it's a design that's pretty much been exclusive to Fincantieri, and all of their ship projects since then have kind of carried the same traits, where it comes to the really, really big and wide base, and then the narrow superstructure.
Yeah, that seems to, kind of be the trend to give people more, outdoor space that's closer to the water. A lot of people seem to like that. And the ships that have had that have been very successful recently. So it's not a surprise to see that.
Right, exactly. I definitely, being a Fincantieri project, I definitely expect this to be, obviously an evolution of it. I mean, this would be the absolute largest version of it by a long shot at this point. The most recent iteration of that project from Fincantieri being 180,000 tons with the Sun Princess, which looks amazing, by the way. They did a fantastic job with that ship. So I think, maybe not like a one-for-one carbon copy, just adding 50,000 tons to it. But I think we could probably see that, but on to a further extent at a much larger scale, and just so many more things that they can do with that.
Absolutely, and this is one of the funny things I think is going to be great. One of my first classes once I get to college for ships, right, is one of my first classes is ship, hull design. So I think it will be very interesting to learn, the ins and outs of stability and the ins and outs. So I can relate more to the subject when it comes to these new builds and how things get more involved. I thought that was a funny thing. I was talking about that today here with someone, which is quite hysterical. That my next first class of in this whole shipping thing will be based on new ships. So and how they're built and the different designs of the nautical aspect, which is of course with cruise ships very important, right?
Mhm.
I'm curious to see exactly how the vessel's stability will be playing a role into here, right? Are they going to go with the wider structure, 200,000, or are they going all along 200,000? So it'll be interesting to see. What do you guys think? Are they going to copy a Sun Princess with the big speeder? That's a big rumor that they're saying. That plays a role into stability, right? Because there's a lot more weight on one side of the ship. What are we thinking in terms of the weight of the ship? Is it going to be a very wide ship? It's something very narrow but long.
I don't think it'll get the sphere stuff
No.
from the new princess ships. I think that'll be unique to the actual princess ships.
Yeah.
But I could see them doing some, maybe not something similar to that, but something unique that kind of follows that of what the princess ships have.
Yeah. I definitely think. Go ahead.
If you look at like the Carnival ships and the princess ships, they're not very similar to begin with. So that that's why I kind of think it'll be something different instead of more of like a carbon copy of it.
Right, exactly. And I really think that, Carnival is kind of the first ones to bring out that what they call the lanai, but, Norwegian calls it like the waterfront, the outdoor, area down on the lower decks. Carnival is the one that kind of pioneered that. They brought that in with the Dream class back in, 2009. And that was pretty impressive that they were able to pull something like that off. And I know that was originally a thing on the Pinnacle project, not to, any extent that we see today, but, that was kind of a thing that was sort of there. They at least had some sort of larger thing, and that kind of carried into the Dream class project. But I think Carnival really loves that concept. And I think they're going to really tackle that really well. I think they're going to be a really, really big emphasis on that with this new project for sure. Whether it's, we finally see a lazy river. I don't know how we would be able to pull something like that off, or if that will ever be something that we do, but I think they can definitely take advantage of a lot of that space with this project at least. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a really, really large and wide open lanai deck where Carnival can really take full advantage of it and its space.
Yeah, I think that would be great. The ones on Carnival now, even like on the Vista class and the XL class, they've kind of made them a little bit bigger. But I would like to see something more similar to like what MSC has, because they have a lot of outdoor space on the Seaside class or whatever that class of ship are. So yeah, that'd be really nice because you could do a lot with it. Not just restaurants, but you can do a whole bunch of stuff with that. So that'd be really cool to see.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And yeah, with Carnival, getting the big emphasis on something like that. I mean, yeah, they had all that type of space on the XL class, but not nearly to the extent of what we see on these other ships out of Fincantieri right now. Because those were out of Meyer. So yeah, they had definitely a much bigger, wider, more open, lanai deck type areas. But I feel like, with the class like this that thrives and is known for having those big areas down on the bottom, I think we could probably see it just like Carnival really hone in and focus on, doing stuff down there.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's I'm very interested to see what they'll take from each brand, because it seems to be a Carnival thing. I don't know about you guys, but
Yeah.
what your opinion on this is. But it seems to be a Carnival thing of them borrowing concepts from each brand. So you can look at Mardi Gras, for example. A lot of things heavily inspiration from. Of course, the whole class of ship was built from multiple different brands, right? So I'll be interested to see if this will be a one-off, design, or if this is going to be the evolution for P&O ship in the future. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that is going to be one of these carbon copies like with Carnival does for all the corporations, or are we talking a completely from scratch? We're talking like a from scratch cruise ship, which for nowadays is very rare because even look at Royal Caribbean with the Icon class, right? Very a lot of similarities from the Oasis class. So what do you think? Are we talking a complete like Project Pinnacle from the ground up? Or are we talking, we're going to steal from our XL, steal from another design, kind of merge them together? What you thinking, boys?
I would like to see a complete from scratch ship, and then they could take, design pieces from that on future company-wide ships.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's probably going to be not a carbon copy of something they have, but it'll be based very similar off of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
although I would love to see a complete new build from scratch, but I think it'll be similar to something that they have.
I think there's going to be similarities, for sure. I mean, Carnival always carries something over from the last class. If it worked, don't mess with what's great type of thing. But I think this is going to be something that stands kind of by its own. Just not only with Carnival Cruise Line, but Carnival Corporation as a whole. I don't, the original rumor was showing saying four ships, and of course that smaller size. So I wonder if maybe, there's some sort of compromise. If that was the case, they went with the bigger ship, but only three of them. Or, maybe we'll see a fourth one, either with Costa or maybe just an option for a fourth one for Carnival. But I think these are going to stand alone with the Carnival Cruise Line fleet. And I think these are going to be like the absolute pinnacle of the fleet. And just, Carnival's history, really. And I unintentionally used the word pinnacle there. But, I think the XL class, when they first came out, I was like, I think this is kind of their attempt to finally, go for that project again. But I really think that this one, especially given the size, because I think these are actually now even bigger. And then, of course, 20 years into the future, but bigger than the original Pinnacle project, size. So I think this is Carnival's finally getting their big break and getting the chance to be really ambitious with it. And I think I'd love to see them just go all out. Maybe not one for one with Pinnacle, their Pinnacle project idea, because it was 20 years old. But, I think that we could get the absolute closest we've ever been to that actual realization of that, famous, infamous, however you want to classify that as, project.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is hoping that we get to see something close to that, because that is something that is just, I think it's pretty wild here. Think about it. That that Project Pinnacle, right? A lot of groundbreaking ideas still yet to be seen in the industry. And that's just how
The
far
monorail.
ahead, 20 years, you say, right? But that project was so ahead of its time. I mean, think about a monorail on a cruise ship. I mean, the
The
closest thing we
Oasis
got to
was ahead
that,
of
I
its
guess,
time.
is the Bolt roller coaster. I think that's the closest we've got to it. Lazy
Yeah.
River, that still's never been touched before. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe we'll see some of the minor inspirations from Pinnacle, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting it's going to be ground up, new brain, new ideas. Again, that was Joe Farkas's idea. So
Mm-hmm.
the new ship designers of today that whip
Yeah.
something up. I think we'll borrow some ideas from Carnival. Maybe that pool deck style like we have in the XL. Maybe we'll see a return of that.
Mm-hmm.
Have to wait and see them.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be, the monorail idea. Yeah, that would be super cool to see. I don't think we're ever going to see that ever come to fruition. Although that was an idea that did come from Fincantieri back in the day. So, with something like that, you can never really say never. But I doubt we'll ever actually see that come to fruition. But like as you mentioned, that the Pinnacle project was ahead of its time, and of course that was 2005, and the Oasis came out in 2009 or 2008, whichever year that was, and that was ahead of its time, and it's still debatable. I mean, even 2018 when Symphony came out, the Oasis class was ahead of its time. Just ships that size back then just were so difficult to pull off. Of course, I'm not surprised the Pinnacle project never came up, but now we're living in a day and age where 200,000 tons are now about to become the industry standard. From what it seems like, we've got Royal's been doing it forever, but now they finally just broke their own record with 200,000 tons. With 250 on the Icon. MSC's broken 200,000 tons now. They're already looking into maybe even something bigger than Icon. NCL's got an order placed for 4 ships over 200,000. There's even a talk of them considering going larger than Icon with those 4. Nothing confirmed with that, but there's still the possibility. And now we have these Oasis class size ships from Carnival. So I mean, now it's normal. Even no longer are these big projects like Pinnacle and Project Genesis, aka now the Oasis class, those were all ahead of its time. We only got to see one of the two. But I feel like big, giant, ambitious projects like that are actually going to become more normal because we now have the capabilities and the technology to do stuff like that.
Yeah, and it wasn't until, talking about these new ships that are coming over 200, it wasn't until recently that these ships were getting this big,
Hmm.
besides the Oasis class. It took that long.
Yeah.
It took 10 years. No, it
Close to
took,
15, really.
yeah, almost 15 years to catch up to what Royal Caribbean did.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's crazy. At first, when you first hear from other cruise lines, like saying it, like, oh, wow, they're going over 200, but like that just seems to be the sweet spot right now.
Yeah.
For these
The
companies,
standard.
they want to. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe, and yeah, the fact that it took this long is unbelievable. But I'm also not surprised. It's there's so many different things that are changing within the industry. You see so many different design effects, and just changes. Like I've noticed, especially like on the Icon, and Brady, thank you for the super chat. Saying, I wonder where Dimitri is. Dimitri is actually on
Very
Wonder of the
good
Seas
question.
right now. That's why he's
I
not on the podcast
wonder
this
where
week.
he is. I wonder.
Yeah, I do wonder where he is. Um,
I
but yeah,
wonder.
but there's a lot of trends within the industry right now, especially like among new builds. Like one, now that we're all going over 200,000 tons essentially, but like random things like these larger open lower deck areas, like we were talking about earlier, the lanai decks. Even like Royal Caribbean loves to do this apparently now with the Edge class and now the Icon class, the asymmetrical top decks, which is such a unique design feature that it's odd when you first look at it, but it's kind of cool in a sense. Where each side of the top deck, is kind of uneven to an extent. The way they can balance things out like that, definitely wouldn't have been able to do that, 5 to 10 years ago. But, that's kind of a thing now.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan of it.
Yeah, it's
though.
crazy.
Celebrities got it. Royals got it.
Yeah. It was pretty cool on Icon, I will say that. It was weird, but it was cool.
Person.
Yeah. It was definitely weird because like on Icon, I was like sitting on deck 15, like underneath a table, and I looked up and like, where you normally will walk under like the little ceilings, there was nothing there. Like it was just extremely high, like 20-foot ceilings essentially. Like it was a really unique feeling, but then you look across and like it was a normal deck 16 was on the other side, but nothing on this side. But I think that's I don't know if we're going to see that on this class of ship or not, but I think that would be a really cool design feature to see going forward. If maybe if Carnival or NCL, MSC, whoever, if other cruise lines start to adopt that type of feature, because I think that's a really neat and unique one that's been coming out lately.
Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I would love to see a huge water park. I mean, that's clearly the way things are going right now with Royal and MSC. And like the XL class, like they have a decent water park, but I feel like they could have done more. But now that you have an even bigger ship, you have the opportunity to do something really cool, whether it's a lazy river or a bunch of different water slides or whatever it is. That Carnival usually has good water parks, so they have an opportunity to do something pretty cool.
Yeah,
And
up until
will be the thing that Carnival does that will level them up, make them next level. We'll try to outdo Category 6, which that's a hard thing to do because according to Royal, they maxed that park out, but Carnival, so you never know. They may be like, hey, we're going to take you one extra, challenge accepted. After all, it is the fun ship, so they better have something fun on board.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And, I would say up until Icon, I think Carnival always did their water parks the best. When it comes, especially like on the XL class, they're fantastic. All the slides, the little mat racer slides, the drop down slides, things like that. Of course, there's really no going against Icon now with anything. Or maybe there is now that, there's more to do or more space. But one thing I've always thought would have been really cool on a Carnival ship is like, of course, the iconic whale tail funnel. And of course, Carnival's always known for their big water parks. How cool would it be if we ever saw a water park on a Carnival ship where the water slides were like intertwining within the funnel? You know how cool that would be?
That would be pretty sweet.
Like that would be so cool to like, whether if it's just like a typical everyday slide or maybe it's like one of the drop down slides, who knows? Like, could you imagine just like could you imagine just like going through the middle of the funnel? I don't know what would be inside it. I don't know if you look like smokestacks. I mean, they could probably do. We have the technology. They could probably do like some really cool like LED effects. Like if you were to go inside that portion of the funnel, though, I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah.
I think that. I don't know if something
Without
like
a
that
doubt,
could
I
be
think
pulled
the water
off, but
park
that'd be
is a
super
great
cool.
idea.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the roller coaster is going to come back this time though? No.
I think it's a one and done.
I could see it with the ship being that big. I could see it. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I would not be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't really be too surprised. I think it makes more sense than putting go-karts or bringing go-karts back. Kind of like Norwegian did. Not to take a shot at Norwegian there, but it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
You know, the maintenance costs of a go-kart, you know, are probably far more expensive than, you know, the roller coaster maintenance. But of course, I don't know roller coasters as well as I know go-karts, so I could be completely wrong there. But I do think that, you know, having more deck space, of course, too, would play a big factor into that. You could put an even bigger roller coaster on it or just do more with it with all that extra space.
That would be cool to see a different roller coaster design.
Mm-hmm. Because with the XL class right now, it's all three of them are the same, which isn't bad.
Yeah.
I mean, can you name anybody that we know of that have been on all three of the XL class? So I mean, or even two of them. I've only been on one.
Yeah.
Tyler hasn't been on any. You're slacking.
Slacker. I would like for them to
I've
change.
been on one. I was on one. I was on it for an hour. Does that count?
You were a pilot.
I'll count it because I count me being on Celebrity Ascent.
There you go.
Oh
I
my
did my
god.
first Carnival ship. I did my first MSC ship this week. Maybe I'll get a Disney ship done. Checked off.
There you go.
Cool. I
There
would
you
like
go.
for them to change the water
No
slide
promises.
The waterside colors?
Yeah.
I think that would be
That
really
way
cool.
You can tell what ship is which.
Yeah, that was a really cool thing about the Vista class. Is
Right,
that each one you can tell them apart.
The Dream class a little bit.
Yeah, I know Dream and Magic and Breeze were a little like pretty similar, but like with Dream to Magic, they were very different with the colors. But like with what you call it, the
Like Celebration, Mardi Gras, Jubilee, they're all the same. Lame.
Right, right, exactly. I mean, yeah, I guess when like the ships are that big, it's kind of tough to differentiate them. But like, yeah, that was the one really cool thing about the attention to detail with the Avista class that I liked, is that you could tell them apart even though they were absolutely identical. But them being, you know, the Vista had the orange and the yellow, the Magic or the Horizon had, you know, the Dr. Seuss like Cat in the Hat one, and then the blue one. Then with the Panorama, it was a solid red and a solid blue one. Like each one, you could tell each ship apart just by the water slides.
Yep, classic.
Yeah, it was really cool. I liked that part of it. And the water, or like the actual park, like surrounding them was all kind of different too. It's like Vista was kind of just standard. It was really similar to the Breeze, and then Horizons was kind of unique because it was all about Dr. Seuss almost. And then kind of in that year between Horizon and Panorama, that's when all the Dr. Seuss stuff kind of started to fall through and just kind of ended. So, so we kind of saw the transition from Dr. Seuss into just Carnival branding it around Carnival. Like instead of, you know, the Cat in the Hat literally sitting there at the bottom of one of the slides, now it says choose fun on the Panorama.
Yeah.
So it's kind of more just fun ship colors and just Carnival vibes on the Panorama compared to the other two.
Yeah.
Look at the XL class, right? XL, you have Mardi Gras, which is the New Orleans theme. You go on the Celebration, which is more classic Carnival. 50th, I believe they have on the app. That's another way you can tell is, I believe. And then the Jubilee, which is the Texas, it has a big Texas symbol. It's one of the ways you can tell those classes apart.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at the whole, you can tell because I think Mardi Gras has that gold. I don't know if Celebration has gold, but Celebration has on the back or the aft, it has the 50 years of fun, I believe, on the back. And then the Jubilee on the bow has the big Lone Star State. So it's one way to tell the ships apart. So again, interested to see the differences between. I mean, again, this is a class of three, so I wonder what they'll make them to make them different. And by the way, speaking of this, I know this is kind of focused on the new class of ship, but this brings up a good question now. Since they order three of these ships, they're going to free up, hopefully, a lot of the itineraries of the Mardi Gras, maybe the celebration. Of course, they have more of those
Hmm.
class coming out too. Do we expect these ships to roll on to 7-night cruises and replace maybe the Mardi Gras and the celebration or the Jubilee for the 7-night cruises and have those ships do 3 or 4 night cruises? What do we think that these new classes of ships? I know it's a little few years down the line, but what do we think? Initial thoughts on itinerary and deployment?
Absolutely. I think, I'm very excited to see the remaining XL class come out 4 and 5 because I think with the overwhelming success of Utopia of the Seas and kind of how Royal Caribbean's starting to run away with that short cruise market with Utopia, and she's only a week old at this point. I know for a fact Carnival's even said they're considering it, and so I wouldn't be surprised if the slightest if either XL 4 and 5 go to the 3 and 4 night itineraries, or when those come out, they replace Mardi Gras celebration on the 7 nights, and those two go to the 3 and 4s. But now that I'm kind of thinking about it, with these three ships now following shortly behind, who knows where we could see like the Mardi Gras celebration and Jubilee get deployed. I'm sure Jubilee may stick around maybe on shorter itineraries eventually. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe now that we're thinking about it, these XL 4 and 5 go straight to 3 and 4s, and then over these three new ships in this new class, I would assume they probably just take over the exact itineraries that the current 3 XL are on. That way, these two new ones don't get affected whenever the next gen comes out.
I could see that. Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah. And then we kind of start doing different ports. Like I remember a podcast a while back, we talked about putting the Mardi Gras in New Orleans, which I'm still so excited for. Even the thought of that gets me excited. Of course, not confirmed, but I think that would be super cool. Offering an XL class ship out of a smaller market like New Orleans, or even finally putting a ship back in Fort Lauderdale, or even
Yeah.
just moving a
That's
3 and 4 night
for
ship.
the river though.
I mean, even if they did a 4 and 5 night, if they replaced Carnival Freedom, please, out of Port Canaveral on the 4 and 5 nights, if they put the celebration to replace that, I mean that'd be awesome.
Well, I'm thinking is because each kind of is themed besides the I know it's topic of the podcast, the new ship, but right, celebration I think will stick in Miami because it has the Miami theme.
Hmm.
Same with Jubilee. So I think the addition of these new classes of ships will play 7 nights and they'll put those on the shorter runs. Maybe in Galveston they'll replace maybe the Dream and the Breeze. I think those are the doing the shorter cruises. Maybe that's it. Again, have to wait and see here what it does play out, but that's a good point. We should keep in the back of our minds here. We're coming up. I think this may be the 7 night replacement ships, and they put these XL onto either new home ports or they're going to put them on the shorter cruises because again they're losing market share with the who wants to go on the Carnival Freedom and the Carnival Glory. I'm not saying they're bad ships, but compared to the
Right.
Utopia, Disney Wish. Or even I think Norwegian. Isn't Norwegian putting? I know they're not doing 3 night cruises
Breakaway.
anymore, but they're putting some other cruise. I think the Joy isn't she doing short cruises or
Breakaway is going to be doing 3 and 4s out of Canaveral for about a month, but then the whole winter season, going from 25 into 26, Getaway is going to be doing 3 and 4s out of Miami, which around that time we're going to have a new pier for their private island, so it'll be perfect. Also, Brady, thank you again for the $10 super chat. Thanks so much. But yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a huge emphasis on the 3 and 4 night cruises. I think that's starting to become, again, I see the complaint all the time, and it's a valid complaint. People saying, "Oh, these ships are way too big to be doing these short itineraries," and that's absolutely true. I 100% agree. That's one thing that's going to, I wouldn't say stress me out because that's a weird term to be using when you're on vacation, but like, I know for a fact I'm not going to do everything that I want to do when I'm on Utopia next month. It's just a fact. We didn't even get to do the Aqua Theater show on the Allure because we had so many other things going on,
Right.
and that was a non-upgraded Oasis class ship. So I mean, yeah, I think I know kind of what I want to focus on with the Utopia, but I definitely know for a fact I wouldn't get everything. It was tough to do it in a week on Wonder. So applying that to maybe a little bit smaller on an XL class, but even my week on Mardi Gras, those ships are so good. There's so many things to do, so much to eat, so many different places to eat. I mean, I honestly got back from the Mardi Gras and I was watching my tour. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even think to even try this. This looks so good. And so like ever since I've been wanting to go back on another XL class, so keeping that into the consideration, just how good these ships are. And yeah, I think Royal Caribbean strategy is, the people that want to do the 7-night cruises on these, which is probably an overwhelming majority, but just book it back to back or book it a second time. That's the beauty of these. And that's why Justin and I do them so many times a year. I mean, I think out of my 4 or 5 cruises this year, 4 of them are the 3 and 4 nights. And just because I take Friday off of work, especially if I'm out of Canaveral, I take Friday off of work and I'm back at home, logged into work, ready to work by Monday morning before 10 a.m.
Yes.
So that's the beauty of it, and that's why that itinerary got so popular so fast. 1, because of Coco Cay, but 2, now we're getting really good offerings for ships. It's not like we're going on the rundown Majesty of the Seas or the Carnival Sensation. Like, we're getting Utopia of the Seas, quote unquote. I'm using quotes here because it's not confirmed or anything like that, or I even heard this, but like, say for instance the Carnival Tropical or the Carnival Destiny, where the heck they use for these 4th and 5th XL ships, so your options are the Carnival Tropical or the Utopia of the Seas. You take 1 vacation day, you get a really good fun weekend getaway. You can do it. How many people are going to do it multiple times a year? But there's always the ability to do it multiple times a year because you're only using 1, maybe 2 vacation days.
If that.
Exactly. My parents pulled that off.
Exactly.
My parents did the Allure back in December. They've since been on it again since, but my parents did the Allure back in December, and they literally took their work computers with them on the ship, and they hooked up to the ship's Wi-Fi. They sat at El Loco Fresh, got a bunch of bowls of chips and quesadillas and stuff, had some snacks, finished their work day, and at 4 o'clock, the ship dropped lines. They logged out of work, and they had themselves a fun weekend getaway, and they were back in time for work on Monday. Of course, this is only a Florida thing. If you're pulling this off out of Georgia, I don't know how you're doing that.
Can't do that.
Yeah, but essentially that's the reason why it got so popular, though, is because a lot of people, especially Orlando specifically, and even South Florida. I mean, Florida has just boomed in population over the last couple of years too. So.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I'm one of them. I'm one of the what we call the transplants.
Let's think about Canaveral, right? That's probably where one of these ships will be going. Canaveral is very major. That's one of their big things.
Right.
It's not the flying. People aren't really coming from Orlando Airport to the port. Some people are, but most of it is the drive-in market. That's why the port is putting a heavy emphasis on parking garages. That plays a role in the plans of these ships because they're going to deploy the newer ships here because they're going to have more of a drive-in market, meaning more local-ish residents compared to, say, a ship out of Miami, which Miami is more of an international crowd. I mean, more international, and people fly from all over the world. Not saying that's not the case in Canaveral, but versus if you stay out of Canaveral versus Miami, you'll notice there's a difference in clientele.
Yeah.
So that does play a role in deployment, and that's where I do wonder, will Canaveral be back to getting a new ship first, or will they put it in Miami? Again, this is months away, but this new ship is still being built nonetheless, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. One question I have for you guys here, as a nautical guy myself, loving the maneuverability of these ships, really that's going to be my career at the end of the day, is learning how to navigate these vessels. What do you think propulsion-wise? Are we talking azipods? Are we talking bow thrusters? What are we thinking?
So, I mean, I would dimensionally, I would say these are going to be about the size of Icon, roughly. I mean, that's about the size of Wonder and Utopia too. I think, the funny thing is, I recently learned is that a lot of the gross tonnage for Icon comes from the Aquadome because of the way they calculate gross tonnage and how big that and open that structure is. That's where a lot of your extra tonnage comes from. That's why, despite being, close to 10 to 15, 20,000 tons larger than Wonder and Utopia, she's significantly larger on paper because of tonnage. So I think with it being right at that size, I wouldn't be surprised if these are about the size of Icon, at least dimensionally and size, physical size wise. Of course, tonnage isn't quite going to be there. But, with that with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if we've probably got, 4 or 5 bow thrusters. Icon class has 5 bow thrusters, which is incredible to think about. That's pretty impressive. That's a lot of power. But as far as azipods, there's no question. You have to use azipods on something like that. I don't know how MSC pulls it off with their world class using the old twin screw design, but there's no question that they would have to use azipods for something of this size.
Yeah, it would be pretty insane for them not to do that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of just the way technology is. I mean, I guess not. The certain cruise lines don't use it, but it would be wise for them to, and I wouldn't see why they wouldn't.
Right, exactly. I think it would be I think that would be probably one of the biggest design flaws if they were not to do that. Mm-hmm. But I do see in the chat from that's asking if when these are planned to come out, and the first one is actually planned for 2029, which is a year later than I think the original rumor was. It from what the original rumor from like months ago sounded like, and I'm kind of like remembering a lot of it just to kind of compare. But it seems like the original rumor was 2028, and they were going to do an XL and this next class in the same year. But it seems so the first one is now scheduled for 2029 though, so it looks like they were a little off with that. Maybe just weren't able to, the competitive cruise market is right now, probably just wasn't able to get the docking space for it. But 2029 for the first one. Second one is, they're going to skip a year in 2020, in 2030, which, oh my God, 2031 is going to be the second one, in 2033 with the third one.
They're on the corner.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to be 30 in like 2 years.
I've been on college by then.
Yeah, exactly. Like, these are so far out. It's crazy to think that these are so far out, but at the same time, we're like getting close to the end of the decade. Well, we're almost halfway through. We are literally going to hit a halfway point in this decade next year. And of course, the nice part is we'll see the first one by the end of the decade, which is amazing.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Yeah, but these definitely will be one of the best ways that Carnival can go out with a bang. This, even though not all of them will be out by that point, but I think this is probably, 2 XL class ships and this next generation, that are another 50,000 tons larger. I think that is probably the way for Carnival to go out with a bang this and have a really, really successful, 2020s decade.
Yeah. Zero question here.
Okay. Oh, you said zero. I was like, I thought you said question here. I was like, okay, what's the question? Nothing. Silence.
Yeah, guys, apologize if the audio is a little off or something like that. I am on hotel Wi-Fi, and I am in Cape Canaveral now, so I'm not at the studio. So if things are acting a little weird, I apologize, but we're doing it live.
It's like he's got a router from McDonald's or something.
That's where he's at. Well, this legit is the worst Wi-Fi I've ever been on in my life, but
yeah. I do see a really interesting chat here as well. I see the 3 new ships replacing the XLs on the 7-day markets, and I see the 3 current XLs moving to 6 and 8s, whilst XL 4 and 5 do 3 and 4s. Maybe even one could go to Long Beach. Honestly, and even Vista class going to 4 and 5s. And honestly, I really like that because it's almost like a chain, because that's what the Vista class is doing right now. There's 3 Vista class ships, and all 3 of them right now are operating 6 and 8 night cruises excluding Costa by Carnival, but those 3 Vista class ships are all doing 6 and 8 night cruises exclusively. They're not doing any sort of 7s, while the XL ships are doing the 7s. So it could just be, by that point as well, we'll have definitely a lot more LNG capabilities we even do now compared to what we had, a year or 2 ago. Canaveral, I think, was one of the first, where they were posting about it the other day, but they had 2 LNG bunkers in the same port at the same time. That was, I think, a first. If not, it was Miami recently when they had Celebration and Icon together.
Miami had done it before, yes.
Yeah.
Miami did Q and yes.
Yes, I think it was 2 different. Well, one of them they shared with Canaveral, which is kind of, I guess, the exception there. But yeah, I think I don't know if those were exclusive to Canaveral, those 2 bunkers, but Tyler knows a lot more about that than I do. But
Yes, I'll put it quickly here. Yes, Miami had Q Ocean Service and the Tortuga or Polaris, one of those. One did Mardi Gras, one did Celebration at the same time. So this is not the first time 2 vessels in Florida have been bunkered, but it's the first time in Canaveral that sister vessels, the Tortuga, Clean Everglades, and the Polaris and the Clean Canaveral, twin vessels, bunkered ships within like a mile of each other. So it was a first in Canaveral terms, but in overall bunkering LNG stuff, not the first. But I was actually funny here, quick LNG side thing here. All the vessels now are getting LNG out of one port, and that is Jacksonville. All 3 of those bunker barges, the Polaris, the Tortuga, and the Q Ocean, are getting their fuel out of Jacksonville, 2 different refineries, but or plants, whatever you call them. But yeah, so I don't know.
That's good.
I don't know if this ship, the beautiful brand new Carnival top secret name, right? Probably what the project name is. Did they announce a project name, or is it just 230,000 tons?
They have not given the name.
Oh, no name. Okay, so it's unnamed class. I don't know if it'll be powered by
They
LNG,
did not. They did not
officially
officially tell us one.
green methanol. So I don't know if that'll be the thing too. So have to wait and see.
Yeah, they did not publicly say a name. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I was gonna say your initial response was a little suspicious.
I know nothing.
Yes, very.
I know nothing about this.
Yeah, that's what someone that would know would say.
That's right.
Carnival, I have no idea what these guys are talking about. But
Carnival, he's leaking company secrets.
But the things that I do know, I only know so much about. But there's very little information that I had even heard, and none of that's confirmed either. But it definitely is really cool as far as going back to the LNG side of things. It's cool that they're going to Jacksonville now, because I know they used to all go up to Savannah, Georgia, which is even further up.
Yeah.
But
that's the big thing is it's impossible to do it. Yeah, it's impossible to go to Savannah.
Oh, it's such a tough job to do. It was so logistically strenuous to do that. So the fact that they even have to go to Jacksonville now is good.
Yes.
But then now that we're getting multiple ships that can do LNG at the same time, there's a reason that Carnival, Mardi Gras and Celebration are always docked in their home ports on separate days. It's because of that. So we're finally making big strides, and even methanol is becoming a fuel source. I think the Celebrity XL is going to be methanol. I'm not 100%, fluent in fuel types and alternative fuels, but I think that's different than LNG. I don't know how much cleaner it is, or if it's just a different type, but I'm pretty sure Celebrity XL is going to be running off of methanol.
I do know one class of ships. There's this new cargo ship variant that's going out there that's
cargo.
Either green methanol or is running on some other unconventional fuels. The new future. Again, they're trying to make everything more cleaner. LNG is great right now, but again, the problem is with LNG is you're also reliant on select vessels, right? You can't bunker LNG with cruise ships by truck. It's you can bunker smaller vessels by truck, but big cruise ships, you need a bunker barge. There's only so many of them. So that's kind of that's another thing too, is Galveston has one. But one of the questions I respond to this, I want to bring it up here again quickly. XL on the West Coast, I personally don't see that happening anytime soon. Just the simple fact is you're limited to ports you can go to, right? Because how many of the ports on the West Coast are tender ports? A good portion of them are tender ports.
So it'd be very logistically tough to do.
Question we saw in the chat earlier here. That's another good question here is, right? You're only limited to where you can put these vessels, especially that size of ship. You can only take it to places that the Icon goes to, right? You can't be taking it necessarily to ports like, say, for example, Roatan, I think can fit it. I think you said
took a few weeks, but yeah.
Some other ports in the Caribbean, you can't fit them. Like, especially in Jamaica, places like that, probably couldn't fit.
Right, exactly. And it's much less of an issue now than it used to be, like when Oasis and Allure first came out.
Yes.
But I know it's definitely a bigger issue over on the West Coast, just because those ports are definitely so much smaller. I don't know if they would be able to pull something like that off. I know like Puerto Vallarta they might be able to, but that's also very tight in there. And same with Mazatlan, and Cabo San Lucas is a tender port, so like legitimately they would not be able to go there, which is probably one of the best places to go over there is Cabo San Lucas. So I think it honestly may even do those ships a disservice by not being able to go to certain ports over there. I think it eventually, yeah, it might become possible, or if they're able to just sort of expedite some sort of, tendering operations. But tendering on a ship that big, there's a reason that Royal Caribbean never did that. They had to build the pier in Coco Cay in order for an Oasis class ship to start going there, because they refused to do it. Even the Quantum class, wouldn't really go there. They would with the Anthem, but they didn't really like doing it.
Yeah, it canceled a lot.
Yeah, they did cancel a lot too. Biggest thing here, and actually it's kind of been on my mind lately too, is what are the names, do you guys think? Are they gonna? I personally, I hope they don't. I think the retro naming should stay exclusive to the XL class, but
I think it will.
some of these, I think at least the first one, I think Carnival Destiny is very suited for this first one though, because the Carnival Destiny was that first ship to ever surpass 200 or 100,000 tons. This would be their first ship to surpass 200,000. So I could absolutely see, in that sense, why they justify that. But I think, for 2 and 3, they either need to be original names or all 3 of them need to be original names.
I think they all need to be original names. I personally would just think, I don't know. I think it was nice that they did retro names for the XL class to kind of fit,
It's a new era
what they
for
were
Carnival.
doing. Right. I think they should go back to different names.
Yeah. I think
just
Holiday
my opinion.
Holiday and Tropical, I think in my eyes, in my mind, I think Holiday and Tropical are on lock for, XL 4 and 5. I think we'll probably see Holiday first and then maybe Tropical. But, I mean, I've seen, as looking over the chat, like I've seen Fantasy and Destiny and even Holiday, Holiday I just mentioned. But, I think Destiny, it would be perfect for the first one. But at the same time, then you're going to set the precedence for the rest of the class. So it's,
Right.
As much as I want that to happen, I think it'd be perfect for it. But I don't know if it would be in their best interest, because if they keep doing that, they're going to end up with 2 Carnival Vistas. If you're going to keep doing a design choice or a name choice like that.
Right.
So it could go a lot of different ways. I think I like the name, I like if they were to go back to Destiny. But I think it needs, the retro names need to stop eventually.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I just think it'd be weird to have like fantasy class names come back. Like they just got rid of them. It feels
Yeah.
like.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a weird term to use, but like the body's not even cold on some of those. Like we still have the Elation
Right.
of the Paradise. The
Of
fantasies just gone. Yeah, Carnival Vista too. I just pop up in the chat. Like, the fantasies only been gone for 4, which is crazy, 4 years now, or at least was
Yeah.
sold 4 years ago. The sensation, the ecstasy, things like that. I mean, yeah, that'd be awesome names, but I don't know if it really would be a good thing to start using those again. And like you said, they're so recent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then I guess another thing here, and kind of talk a little bit more about the structure of the ship following this, but the guest capacity is higher than Icon, and Oasis really, but those are same size as Oasis. But 8,000 passengers is kind of a lot and kind of a daunting number to hear on passenger count on a ship.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Considering, isn't most of the rooms triple fourth, like for people, isn't that typical for most of the rooms on Icon, right? So
That
that's
I
a
don't know.
lot of people you're putting in cabins then.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a very high number. It's a very, very high number. I think even the world class right now is like 7, which is still higher than Icon. I think
they're just gonna have a bunch of interior rooms because they don't have the split structure. Well, we don't know, but assuming they don't have the split structure, they're gonna be able to fill in all those interior rooms that like Oasis class ships don't have.
right,
So that's where you're gonna get that extra capacity from.
right, exactly. And you mentioned the split structure. All the 200,000 ton ships right now have split structures. Do you think we're gonna see that continue?
I
It
don't
seems
think
to be
so.
a thing exclusive to 200,000 ton, plus ships.
Right. I don't think the whole ship will be split. I think it'll be closer to if they are to do it, I think it'll be closer to what MSC did, where it's just the back.
Mhm.
But what would be interesting if it was just split structure in the middle, like
I
just
think
Central
the
Park on
I
Oasis
think
class.
the Disney Adventure is like that. It has the opening in the middle, and then it has that really weird open back area, but it's closed off.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think just the fact that it's only 200-ton ships, 200,000-ton ships is just because you need that size to
Hmm.
be able to pull it off, you know?
Right. Exactly. And I think it's well within reason, but at the same time, with it coming from Fincantieri and being that type of project from that original seaside, or at least what came from the seaside, like that project still kind of lives on to this day. Even with the Sun Princess, but I think we might finally see one that's not a split structure. I think even if to any capacity, we may see it like what they were gonna do with Pinnacle, where it was almost like um, they almost had like the pinched corners where the Aqua Theater suites are on the Oasis class. I remember that being there on Pinnacle, but it was like right behind those, it was like a closed off glass. I think that was where like the original atrium was going to be on that ship. So like maybe to that extent, we see like a kind of like some balconies like pinch off in the back a little bit, but who knows? If we see a split structure, it would only be like to that extent. It would be very, very minimal. But honestly, I think this might be the first time we really see like a major, 200,000 ton ship that's not split like that, which is going to be really unique to this class, I think.
Yeah. It'll just give them more room up on the
Absolutely.
pool deck too to do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest thing is more pool deck. And Carnival loves their pool decks. You got to have more places for the big mega deck parties. And even down below, whatever they do down below in the big lanai deck, again, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, there's so much they could do with all the extra space that project has. You know,
Yeah. It might not be how do I want to word this? It might not be the way Carnival usually does it, but I would love for them to do a promenade in the middle of the ship and
oh, it'd be so cool.
have it access to that lanai deck.
Like
That
open
would be
up into
nice.
it.
No, like so, like in the middle of the ship, you like what MSC like how or Royal Caribbean MSC whatever, but then instead of like how like on the Oasis class it goes out to the running track.
Hmm.
So instead of going out to the running track, you could just go out to the outside lanai, like down below.
Okay.
Does
I
that
mean,
make
you can
sense?
kind of do that with Mardi Gras, though. I mean, it kind of spits out on at least one of the decks where that main stretch is. I think it's deck 8, or at least the top level of all of that. Like, you can kind of go out to the lanai deck and some, at least in the back, and I think there's some side doors too. But yeah, I get what you're saying, though. I think, like, all around access to it would be really neat to have.
Yeah, have a lot of like natural light get in from there too.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest downsides, which isn't a huge downside to the Oasis class, but like with the Oasis class, there's really not very many like big open outdoor areas, down below. There's not a lot of natural light where I think, these have the potential if, you configure it right, you can get a lot of natural light into that promenade. Maybe they'll do the Grand Central like with a big, open half of it where they have the big LED screens. It's possible. Or, just the big run like completely down the side of the ship like they did with, some of the bars and shops, things like that. I mean, they could do a lot with a ship this size and just a lot more. What would be really cool, I don't think it would ever be possible or they would even do it. But like how they do the outdoor seating What if they did like a gift shop or two out there, or like a little ice cream stand outside?
That right. If you expand that promenade space outside, you could do things like that. That would be pretty unique to that ship.
Yeah.
Um,
And again,
I
Carnival
would love
loves it.
to.
Like
Yeah.
they pioneered that design. They love that design. They honestly, it was like I mean, they were the first to put a hot tub maybe, a hot tub down that low hanging off the side of the ship, like part of that lanai, built into that lanai deck. Other
Right.
cruise lines have since done it, or I don't know if, I guess the Prima class kind of has something like that similar. But, they could do just like relaxation areas, and then there could be so much potential with that. And as much as they like it, that they're going to put a lot of emphasis behind it, and I think they're going to put a lot in thought into the design of those areas. I think
Yeah, for sure.
even like an
That's gonna be very
outdoor eating venue, something like you don't get like outside or on the inside, like with the XL class, you get like the guys barbecue in the back, and it's like an indoor seating area, but they have an outdoor part too. But like, what if you get like a little to go window, kind of like Izumi in the park, for an example. Like if you got a concept like Izumi in the park, but it was like, say a burger or a hot dog stand or something like that along those lines, or just like, say you go get some chicken nuggets. I know we love those. If we had something like that, but it was like a little to go window out on that lanai deck, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
There's
I love it.
so many possibilities we could go with, with a design like this. I'm really interested in just. I think that's the most exciting thing about this is like, what are they gonna do? Because again, the XL class has pioneered a new era for Carnival, and like I mentioned earlier with the naming, I think going with the retro names, it was well deserved, because this really none of these ships, in the XL class feel like true Carnival ships, or at least our past perception of a Carnival ship. They're not the original cookie cutter designs. They're so much bigger, so much nicer, brighter, more open, natural lighting. So many big changes that they made with that class of ship that it really truly didn't feel like your average Carnival ship. So I think putting in that new era, I expect the same out of this, but times
For sure.
even more. I hope we don't get the same cookie cutter design. I hope that's not just the new cookie cutter that they use, in that sense. For the XL class, I hope we don't get the exact same layout on the inside, just a little bit stretched, like we did literally going from the Conquest class to the Dream class, where it's literally just longer. I hope, and I don't think we're gonna get something like that, but yeah, I think now we're ushering in like an era of Carnival where each class of ship is gonna feel different, and it's just gonna be very unique in their design.
For sure.
I don't think at all that these are going to
No.
be like how they've gone from the Dream class to the Vista class. How it's literally just a ducktail, and it added like 5,000 tons. A 50,000 ton jump is way too much like too significant of a jump in size to do something like that. I think it's not going to be like it's going to be an XL plus class ship, like a double XL class. Like these are going to be absolute just like jumbo sized Carnival ships.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Yeah, move the street eats food truck style restaurants from the pool deck on the XL class to the outdoor promenade. Beautiful, Jason. Fantastic idea. I love that. It's 10 out of 10. Like you could literally move that style of restaurant. Could you imagine like on the seaside where it has the big open area around there, but they have food trucks? How cool would that be? That's a trend right now. And I mean, we even see it on Wonder of the Seas, but like that's a trendy thing. My apartment complex, literally like every week they're like, hey, we got a food truck from this place coming in. And people are like always lined up trying to get some food from it. Like that's like an in trend right now is food trucks. So like putting that type of offering down low on the deck, I mean, that'd be amazing. And of course,
Without a doubt, that's some concepts that again I think is what they can do. And the problem is they're trying to build a ship now for 2030 whenever it comes out. Hopefully they do a good job trying to figure out what is relevant today and what the industry will be in how many years when the ship comes out. Because again, that's something that I'm sure Royal Caribbean is dealing with right now with their Project Discovery. What do we make relevant now, and what will be timeless? Because think about
Project
it, these classes
Discovery.
are years in the works. So that'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see, right? Maybe something technology may come out like today, maybe like, wow, this is groundbreaking. But
Mhm.
in many years when it comes out, it's not that groundbreaking. So
Right, exactly. I mean, yeah, we've got a long way to go, and I think right now the order was just placed yesterday. I mean, we're still a long way from these coming to fruition. I could almost guarantee, like, back in, what was it, 2017, when we first got the order of Project Leonardo from NCL. They were really weird on how they did that, because not long after, like maybe a month or two, they gave us a rendering for it. But those renderings were bare, like nothing on there. So I mean, yeah, it was like a couple lounge chairs that they just like put there just like as placeholders, but like there was nothing on the original renderings of Project Leonardo. But of course, now we know there's a giant water park on there. There's giant slides going down the side of like the superstructure of the ship, go-karts. I mean, I'm sure if there's a rendering floating out there somewhere in Carnival of this brand new ship, I mean, it's probably bare bones. There's probably nothing on it. It probably just looks like a Carnival ship with an empty deck is probably where they're at right now. And, over time, they're going to continue to reimagine and redo things. I mean, even, in the 1400 bar on Icon of the Seas, I mean, there was renderings over the span of like 3 or 4 years through Icon's construction period, where, I mean, the sketch and the render of the ship changed almost every year on just different ideas that they were implementing over that time.
Sorry, I was not paying attention.
I, Come on, guys. But yeah, like, I mean, ships change over the span of construction, whether it's already started construction or they haven't started construction yet. I mean, again, with Icon, it was ordered in 2016, like December of 2016, and just came out, 8 years later in 2024. I mean, we're a long way from it. We're a long way from this first ship from Carnival, and of course, we've got other Carnival ships that are probably going to be changed. I wouldn't be surprised if we see stuff on XL4 and 5 that probably we don't even see on like the Jubilee. A Jubilee changed from Celebration.
Right. Yeah, especially with the newer design, like the newer ships, they always come out with a basic, like you said, bare bones type rendering, and then they slowly add things, tweak things, remove things, up until basically they sign the final thing with the shipyard or whatever for the plans. So if there is anything going around, expect it to change. I mean, maybe not dramatically, but there's typically differences. Like if you look at renderings, the initial renderings compared to what the ship looks like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even Project Leonardo changed over time. I mean, I don't think the original plan for that project was to even have an infinity pool built into the structure of the ship, and they managed to pull it off. And Quinteri didn't like that too much, but they pulled it off. I mean, yeah, it's over time, and of course they learn things as every single ship comes out, as their competitors' ships come out. Cruise lines learn things, and they're gonna come out with different types of enhancements to what we need, what we see, and what cruisers want and what we need. And again, there's just pop culture trends. What was cool back in 2020, whether it's just random like TikTok trends or, just TikTok in general is just like one example. Like, things will take the world by storm in an absolute heartbeat these days. So things can change from year to year, and, and not to say that it won't be relevant, but I'm saying like, some of the things that we see on Icon may not be like a relevant thing, a couple years down the road.
Right.
That's kind of a stretch to say, but yeah, it's an example, I guess. But yeah, I think we've had a really good discussion today, though. I think it's been really, really fun talking about this new class of ship. I'm very excited to see what Carnival does with this, and I think there's just so much potential we have here for this. So I'm very excited to see kind of these come to life and come to fruition. As far as like, our first look at these ships, probably about another year or two away, I would assume. We're going to get more information on XL 4 and 5 before we get information on this next project from Carnival. But, I'm sure we'll see, a little bit of it come to life over the next year or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Now
anyway,
that they've announced, they'll slowly let things out. So
probably once it gets closer to the construction part, like I know with Mardi Gras, it was to where it was like maybe mid to late 2018, and that the ship was going to come out in 2020. So I think usually around the time as a new ship class, Icon's a very big exception to that because the ship was almost done. But like with most classes, the Mardi Gras included, most of the time, usually when the keel gets laid or the construction officially starts, steel cutting, that's usually when like the solid thing is in there, as to where they say, okay, we're ready to show this off. This is how it's going to end up being, finalized, or at least to some extent. There were some changes that even from the original Mardi Gras renderings were made to the final design. But, like when they have the true thing kind of locked in, like at least 80%, usually that's when they finally show us.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't expect to see, a rendering of this thing probably for another year or two at minimum.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very excited to see what they kind of do with these and just see where this project, goes and see it coming to life for the next couple of years. But as always, it's been a very fun conversation with you guys. And of course, we'll see you guys back next week for another podcast episode. Thank you, everybody who was here in our live chat watching this episode live, or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you for listening to this point. And of course, as always, we'll see you guys next week for the next episode, and have a good night.
Peace out.
Bye.